Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to the week of privilege. Obviously, right now, there's a lot of talk about white privilege, and you might understand what that means, but some people are struggling. So I wanted to make some videos to help explain it in a way that I think everyone will be able to get. Over the next 4 days, I'm going to be using examples and trying to explain various types of privilege, starting with lighthearted ones and then ending with white privilege on Thursday, because I think that's the one that most people struggle to grasp. My goal is to educate and hopefully entertain while also giving people information so that they can acknowledge their privilege and not be defensive about it. This is a big topic, so I felt like I needed some help. For these videos, I've enlisted the help of several of my best friends, as you'll see here. We're a pretty diverse group of friends, if I do say so myself. Each one of us has different levels of privilege, so it'll be easy to use us as an example to show you the different types of privilege and how it affects everyone. These different privileges range from white privilege all the way down to really silly ones. So without further ado, let's get into it. As usual, let's start with the definition. Social privilege is a special unearned advantage or entitlement used to one's own benefit or to the detriment of others. These groups can be based on many things, such as social class, age, height, IQ, disability, ethnic or racial background, gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, the list kind of goes on and on. So in other words, it's something you can't control that gives you an advantage or gives other people a disadvantage. I think we can all agree that that is the basis of privilege. Nowhere in there does it not acknowledge your own personal struggle. I mention that because I think that's where a lot of people get caught up in the idea of white privilege and privilege in general. Nowhere does it say that it's not acknowledging your struggle. Remember that. I'm going to be driving that point home a lot throughout the rest of the video. For most of these examples, I'm going to be trying to follow a very simple format. First, explaining what the privilege or advantage is. Second, addressing the advantages that the person receives or the disadvantages that others get. And third, a quick note about what you can do about it, because I think that's very important. I believe this formula will help people to really understand where these ideas and thoughts and facts come from and really help everyone to acknowledge it. As I mentioned, we're going to start off the week really light and easy today by going over some silly, lighthearted examples, along with looking at the difference between privilege and like natural ability or natural talent, and then finish this video off with explaining what a social construct is. Let's start off with the easy, very silly one. Bearded privilege. Fergie, Cody, and Don both have and can grow luscious, lovely beards. Well, I, on the other hand, this is about as far as it goes. Now, this is a silly example, but for example, it doesn't necessarily make me worse off. It doesn't make them better, but they happen to have a beard, and the society that we live in favors that in certain categories. For example, this is the advantage or privilege they have. Some girls think that beards are super awesome and super sexy, right? It's the beauty standards in a way, which in turn would leave me, non-bearded Ikey, far behind. Now, should they feel guilty about having their beards? Absolutely not. It's not their choice that they have great face hair molecules or follicles or whatever you call them. But if they were in a conversation with a girl that exclusively likes people with beards, they might be able to say, hey, people without beards are really cool too. Because if someone has a bias toward people with beard because of the way society is, there's a chance that they'll tend to listen to them better than non-bearded folks such as myself. Next, height privilege. So other than myself, Alex, Andrea, and Emily, everyone else here in this group of friends is over 6 feet tall. I shouldn't have to explain the advantages, but I will. Jake, Don, Cody, and Fergie can reach stuff on tall shelves. They can see over people at concerts even. And to the similar vein of before, for the guys at least, girls tend to like taller guys because that's how society is. Should they feel guilty about their height? Absolutely not. It's just the way that things go. But something they could do about it is maybe put one of us short guys on their shoulders at a concert. That's kind of going to help us both out. We'll both be able to enjoy the concert. If they're feeling good, it's not going to harm them at all, and it'll help me have a better time, for example. Now, if Jake, for example, he's the tallest one of us, had a bad back, I wouldn't ask him to put me on his shoulders. But it would still feel good for him to acknowledge that he is, in fact, tall. That would make a huge difference to a short kid like me. And on the flip side, us shorter people, we can fit into small places, right? Don't have to worry about hitting our heads on doors. It's awesome. I don't feel guilty about that. We can't change our height, unless you wear heels, but I think you get the point. But now let me use a more specific example so that I can kind of show you the difference between like these kind of social privileges and things and like a weird realm that mixes with natural talent or ability. Let's compare Jake and myself. We both ran hurdles in high school. We were both top of our sections. I was in section 5, he was in section 6, but Jake is 9 inches taller than me. He obviously has an advantage. Now, I worked my ass off to become Class A champion my senior year of high school, but at the end of the day, it's going to be hard for me to compete with someone that much taller and faster than me. It doesn't make him bad. He shouldn't feel guilty about that, but I acknowledge that, he acknowledges that, and we kind of move on. Another example that's kind of natural ability, if you will, Cody here is an engineer, which means that his mind works in a pretty specific way. Not the only way that engineers' minds work, but his mind specifically works in a certain way, right? Stay with me. Whereas my mind is a mix of analytical and creative, and it's kind of all over the place. My point is, Cody's mind traditionally works really well and gives him an advantage in the engineering field, right? I would probably not be as good of an engineer. Now, that's not to say people with the same kind of mind like mine can't be an engineer, but Cody has the advantage. People that think that certain way, and that can be anyone, male, female, anything. People that think in that way have an advantage in that regard. I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down. So these last two examples aren't exactly social privilege, but kind of just like natural talent or natural ability. It's kind of like a mix of that. When it comes to the rest of the privilege I'll be covering this week, it will be very much directed at social privilege. I wanted to start with these because it's kind of a way to break down the barriers and think about things at a really basic, easy level. The reason that social privilege exists is because of social constructs that we put on ourselves. A social construct is something that exists not in our objective reality, but as a result of human interaction. It exists because humans agree that it exists. Jake is naturally tall. There's nothing we can do about that. But women liking tall men, or guys with beards, is because of the way that our society is, aka social constructs. When it comes to these privileges that we'll talk throughout the rest of the videos this week, you'll see examples of how people, historically mainly white straight men, and plenty of others, have crafted this narrative over time about who is better than who, and because of this, and the rules that are in place, it puts others at a disadvantage. So let me know what you think in the comments below, please. This is day 1. There's going to be 3 more days of videos. I hope you tune in for all of them. Again, if you have any questions, put them down below. And if they're really, really awesome questions, I'll make a video Friday morning and I'll post it so everyone can hear and see the discussions that we are having. For now, peace out.